Hey, Derek Snow here, the voice of Real Bois-Mortier and Black Clover. That's right, the captain of the Aqua Deer Squad. Where is Charmy? Oh well. Welcome to Anime Egotists. I think it's time for a little bit of picture magic. What do you say? Have fun, guys.
And welcome back to the Anime Egotists. My name's Alex, and personally, I think John Cena was in the right. He had every right to turn on you people.
I agree. I haven't watched wrestling in a while, but I assume that John Cena is always correct. And I'm Richard.
That's correct. And much like John Cena being in the right, and yes, if you going back to our old catchphrase, if you disagree, you're wrong. There are a lot of moments in anime that actively make us angry.
Yeah. Whether they're moments that make you angry to tell the story or set up a character, you can feel for these characters because of the emotional connection that anime can give you.
Yeah, that's correct. And you might be thinking, oh, this is going to be a time where you guys got pissed and started hating everything. Well, that's not necessarily true, because in my opinion, getting angry at a character for doing something or a specific moment is actually a way that enhances the story. You get invested. You want to see people get their comeuppance. You get angry for, well, the right reason.
Exactly. So that's what we decided we wanted to talk about. The moments in anime that made us angry, but also improve the story or told a necessary part of it.
Yes. I'm sorry. Some of you seem to like our more negative topics, and maybe we'll get one of those eventually, but we're starting off a little more positive this time. Do you mind if I start us off?
Go right ahead.
Okay. The first moment, Choji turns on Togame, Windbreaker.
Okay.
All right, so after Sakura and Togame have their fight, Sakura insists that Togame doesn't need to hide who he is or divert what he sees, because the whole point of Shishidorin is they start off as a normal gang, but when Choji became the leader, he kind of had an iron fist and became in a sense of, oh, if you lose, it means you're not strong, and it means you can't be part of this gang. And Togame thought, well, I'm so loyal to Choji for everything he's done that maybe I'll be the person who kind of reinforces this. But after Sakura and him have a really awesome fight, Togame kind of realizes that that's not the way to do things, and he tells Choji, "Hey, this is wrong. We can still change. It's not too late." Hey, as Choji's excitedly running up to Sakura and be like, "Fight me next, fight me next." And the second Togame tries to grab him, Choji knocks him out with a kick, knocks out the purse, his second in command, and says, "Why are you talking? You lost. You should have nothing to say." And Sakura, like the rest of us, he just grabs Choji by the scruff of his shirt, throws a punch back, but his boss, Umemiya, grabs his hand like, "Hey, Sakura, it's okay. I got this one. Tag out." You, after at first not caring about Togame because it's like, oh, he just seems like a jerk, but you realize while he didn't do the right thing, you understand where his loyalty lies and that he's not inherently a bad person. So seeing him be turned on so quickly, it pisses you off, and people were actively like, yes, humble Choji, make him understand, which he does, and they do become better people. But in that moment, you're pissed. You're pretty livid.
Yeah, it sounds like a complicated situation because they're delinquents in Windbreaker kind of thing, right?
Yes.
Okay. It's one of those that's on my list, but eventually, so maybe eventually I'll get to it. But yeah, it's sounds like the combination of somebody giving disrespect and having to be shown that, but then different groups saying maybe not. So it's just again, I'm trying to understand it fully. I think still.
Yeah. And it's so low on the list right now because, it does lead to them, Choji saying, hey, I'm sorry, I realize my mistakes. And apparently they do come back even stronger. And it's a case of, oh, well, now that our group has figured out all of our problems and we're working together officially, they're good guys now, and they're actually friends with the main cast. But I haven't gotten there yet, supposedly.
Okay. So is it like another season away or something?
I want to say another season, maybe two. Apparently, in the new game they released, apparently there is a story of, hey, this is what Shishtorin did after they kind of realized that they were in the wrong. So it's the game telling original stories, which I'm always on board for.
Oh yeah, I love that in anime video games. But I'm not the biggest fan of when they try to tell the show story, especially in the longer series.
Yeah. It's only available in Japan, so I can't speak on it too much right now, but just like as pissed as you got, it was the case of okay, Umemiya, do your thing. Humble this child, which once again he ended up doing.
All right. So my next one.
Go ahead.
All right. So, I guess my first one. Sasuke finds out Itachi was working for the Leaf in Naruto.
Okay.
So this kind of unravels a lot. I mean, we've kind of seen that yes, the Leaf isn't this like bastion of good that they kind of portray themselves as. Uh, this is the one of those moments that when you find out that like an entire clan was sacrificed. Itachi did it for the good of the Leaf, and I do feel bad for Sasuke in this moment. That and it kind of makes me. It's like really, I mean, there were kids. I mean, Sasuke was not the only kid in the entire Uchiha at the time, and yet they were all killed to prevent the coup. And it's just one of those moments that's like I can understand and I feel that a little bit of that anger for Sasuke, and I know understand where he's coming from, what like wanting to destroy the Leaf now is like there he in his mind there had to be another way. He was just a kid at the time. He's still technically like a teenager at this point.
Especially considering when you realize that when he's like, oh, maybe Itachi, like, it's like Itachi wasn't as bad as I thought. And then you start to realize, holy crap, Itachi had to go through that? That just makes me angrier.
Yeah, and you know that and when we get this scene where he actually killed their parents, and they're just sitting on their knees waiting to be executed. Pretty much, they're not even willing to stand up and face him. It's just one of those moments, like, and the fact that most of the village knew that this was an, or not most of the village, most of the leadership of the village, the third Hokage, the elders knew that this was on the table and didn't automatically put their foot down and say and tell Danzo, you will be executed or removed from the village if you do something like this.
Yeah, I was going to get into that because it goes like, holy crap, Donzo was behind a lot and it pisses me off. But once again, like you and I have talked about, Donzo does enough scummy things that were like, I want you to suffer. I want you to be, and that's, to me, that's what makes him compelling. There's no redeeming qualities about him. And for a series like Naruto, that's really cool.
Yeah, because I mean, especially a series that even most of the villains had something going for them to make them like you care enough about them to want them to be more in the series. And Don's is one of those. It's like, okay, the more he suffers and the quicker he suffers, I'm happy.
Well, he's a politician. Of course he's evil.
Well, yeah, that's not saying much.
Yeah, but still, like, especially him, and even at this moment when Sasuke's like, we're going to destroy the Hidden Leaf Village, I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't fully blame you. It's when he starts saying he's going to be Hokage, is where I'm like, oh, did Rock Lee's primary lotus drop you on its head? So, are you good, my guy?
Yeah, it does unfortunately lead to that kind of where he goes back and forth so much about I'll destroy the leaf. Now I want to lead the leaf, but completely destroy the current version of it, and then I'll. It's like okay, now I just want to destroy parts of it. It's like yeah, it leads to a lot of that back and forth. But this moment though, when you first see it, it's like why I don't like any of the Leaf Village right now.
Yeah, I understand that. Even if people are still like, well, he still shouldn't have tried to destroy the leaf. I'm like, no, this is once again, the hidden leaf are not necessarily the good guys. I don't know if that's a hot take. It probably isn't a hot take, but I have some hot takes about Naruto that I feel like you and I are going to fight about. But that's another point for another day.
Yeah, I mean they have good people, but they also have very evil people come from the Leaf. So,
Yeah, just like everywhere else. But I can co-sign.
all right. So your next entry.
Bandit Keith steals Joey's prize card, Yu-Gi-Oh!
Okay.
Yeah, so Bandit Keith, in the long run of things, you probably could have written him out of the series and not a whole lot would have changed. But what really got to me, especially as a kid, is the prize card. The prize card. If you win, you get money, and Joey's trying to use the money for Serenity's eye operation. All of a sudden, for Bandit Keith to sneak into his room at night and steal the card so Joey can't compete. And while some people felt like, oh my God, I feel so bad for Joey, I would have been like, hey, Bandit Keith, come outside, park. There's no parking lot in Duelist Kingdom. That's okay. Go. Let's come outside anyway. Hey, like you just get the feeling that there's no remorse and there's no good side to Bandit Keith, that him doing that legitimately enrages you.
And then the moments after when Joey breaks down thinking that he's going to be thrown out of the tournament and not get a chance to help Serenity, you feel it because he's legit upset, and uh, it really helps show how much Mai has grown as well later on. So
Yeah.
I like this moment a lot of.
No. Every time I watch that moment where Mai gives Joey the card, I get a little misty eyed. I'm like, that's so well. That and then Yuki saying, "No, you hold on to the prize money." That breaks me too. But it also helps in the case that Bandit Keith did what he did. So while it helps the story, I didn't feel sorry for him getting literally thrown off and then fall. And the thing is that Bandit Keith never gets redemption, even when you see him again. You're like, you know what? No, you don't deserve it, buddy.
Yeah, because the next time we see him, he's mind controlled by Merrick, leading
Yeah.
into the second uh, arc, pretty much, or second major arc.
Yeah, and pretty much like I don't even think the manga ever tries to be like, oh, Bandit Keith has this sad, tragic backstory. No, he's a horrible person, and he gets exactly what he deserves, which I guess you could say in a case makes him a really good villain. But a part of me doesn't want to give him that much credit because I still hate the guy.
Yeah, I'll co-sign. I because it always made me wonder, like, so Bandit Keith, even though he was like a regional champion, so supposed to be really good, didn't get invited to this tournament, so he now is having to steal from Joey. I'm not 100% sure.
I think it was more of a case of it's like, well, if Joey's disqualified because he can't put his prize card on the line, then I win. Which honestly, you can kind of understand where he's coming from because I don't remember Bandit Keith winning a single duel on screen, cheating or otherwise.
No, because he just wins enough to, or steals enough star chips by beating up his friends.
Yeah. Remember in that flashback when Pegasus is like, "Oh, I don't need to beat you. I could just have a child do it."
Mm-hmm.
And then the child does it, and the kid goes, "Oh, I think I won." Which sounds like a stupid line, but in his defense, they didn't have technology that showed the life points going down to zero, so I can't be upset at the kid.
Yeah, and I apparently they've actually remade that card, so they have the original, but then they've made a card that does have a win like condition based on that duel with so it's kind of funny when you think about
As
it.
if it means I actually win millions of dollars to pay for my hypothetical sister's surgery, then I think it would be cool. But something tells me it doesn't have that effect.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. But Bandit Keith just pissing us off enough to where it's like, yeah, like take him down, Joey. And also the add fact that Mai is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of good moments with this. I'll co-sign.
Yeah.
All right. So my next one.
Go ahead.
All right. So I put Overhaul's treatment of Eri in My Hero Academia.
Okay.
This one, you recognize that Eri has been uh abused and brought down to a point where she's willing to pretty much cooperate with anything he says, um, even when there's a chance of escape right in front of her. With when Deku and Lemillion are right there, and the fact that it's all to create this super drug that erases quirks, even if it's just temporary at this point. It's just one of those moments. It's like it sets up Overhaul as somebody who's not redeemable at this point in the series, and want you're so happy to see them go after his entire organization and do everything in their power to just end him.
Yeah. Especially with from what everything I've heard with how he treats Eri, it makes it all the cooler that Deku's like, hey, I'm gonna help this girl. It's gonna be hard, but I'm going to help this girl out. So it makes him look that much better too.
Yeah, and that was a you get scenes where you find out little bits and pieces, like there's a scene in the cafeteria at school when they know the missions could be at any time, so they're kind of on standby, all the like Deku and Uraraka and all them who are gonna be on this mission, and they're just upset, and the other students don't quite understand because they're not in the same kind of courses. That at this point they're a little bit behind. It's just one of those moments. It's like, because like Deku breaks down crying because of the stress, because he knows he's failed this first time, and you feel that anger and pain that he's going through and stuff. So it's just it leads to one of my favorite story arcs in the series so far.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. Even with all the shots well, actually, I don't really even really take shots at my hero anymore. I don't think this is one, I don't think Aries is one of them. I feel like even I'd be like, damn, now I feel bad making fun of her. My bad.
Yeah, and she's a sweet kid with actually a very powerful ability, so it's a lot. And I'm hoping that um I don't know. I don't know if there's more to the series after. From my understanding, it kind of just ends. So
Yeah, and I heard a lot of people weren't happy with the ending, but that could be I don't know whether I trust that or not. Maybe the ending's great and people's expectations were just too high.
yeah, I know they just released the trailer for the final season, so that's coming soon.
Final season part 1 of 64 was what's happening there?
This isn't Attack on Titan. I think it's legit. It's 15 episodes, a small break, 15 episodes, or something like that, or 13 or whatever to get to the.
That's not the worst way of doing things, but yeah, I can co-sign. It makes you hate the guy all that much more. But once again, that's kind of the point.
And it sets him up as somebody who is very kind of dark and scary. Like there's something more to him that allows him to have this sort of control.
Yeah, I understand.
So, all right. So your next moment.
Ichinose corrupts Sophia, Persona 5 strikers.
Okay.
All right, so Sophia is one of the, I guess, new Phantom Thieves of the game. She's this little girl who's AI. And she's trying to learn more about humanity because she doesn't fully know much about it. And she knows I was programmed to learn about and help humanity, but I don't know what that's like. So she spends a lot of time with the Phantom Thieves and she grows really close with them, and she's still struggling. And the plot twist being that there's a side character you meet called Ichinose. It turns out she's one of the main villains, and she's the one who created Sophia because she didn't know about humanity. She lost her parents super early, and it kind of messed with her. But she was still brilliant and invented Sophia to kind of help her learn. But she's also incredibly twisted. And when she meets up with the thieves and they learn that, oh, she is a villainous person, and her data and some of the stuff she uses messes with Sophia, and she turns against the Phantom Thieves. And they're having a hard time going up against her. Even with how strong they all are, it's hard going up against somebody who's you considered to be your friend. And
Mm-hmm.
when they finally break her out of it, there's a ledge, and Sophia falls off of it. It is horrifying, and Ichinose doesn't seem to care. She's like, well, why do you even care about her? She's just a creation. She's just my toy. Like, and the rest of the Phantom Thieves do not take it well, and neither did I. Of course, it turns out in the end that Sophia is actually alive, and it leads to a pretty awesome plot twist right after that. I'm a little ashamed I didn't see coming, but it was still cool. But in that moment, you are pissed, and with the whole game being centered around the villains in this game are bad, but they can still change and be redeemed. This is kind of one of those ones where you're like, no, put her 6 feet under with Haru's dad. Let's do this.
Yeah. So this actually brings up something interesting because I do a lot of audiobooks, and one of the series I listen to is called Backyard Starship, and a lot of what they talk about is uh, AIs, and part of the story is some of the characters treat AIs as if they are like another being because these AIs at this point are so developed that they have almost pretty much free will. They can't be controlled, but there's a discussion of if a being has free will, does it deserve that? It sounds like it kind of has some of those moments in this. So I yeah, I've seen where they had other AIs in that series do things that they didn't really want to. It seemed like so I can co-sign. This seems like a very upsetting moment.
Yeah, and the only kind of downside towards the end is they do kind of try to work with each Nose to be like, hey, we can help fix this. But once again, it would be the case for me, like, no, you don't get that. You mess with best AI, Sophia. I know she forgives her, so technically it should be a case of, well, if Sophia tries to forgive her, then maybe I should be on board. But it's kind of a mixed bag in the sense. But in the moment, you're like, my blood was boiling as I was holding the control. I'm like, nope, it's 2 a.m. I should go to bed. No.
And how do I end this person?
Yeah. But like in that moment, it is a case of it's like, holy crap, this person has pissed me off. So it does work. Especially considering how lovable Sophia is. The only type of AI I will ever let draw something.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll co-sign. It's as I said, since I connected it to another moment in a series I like, I'm like, oh, okay, I'll
Yeah.
sign on.
Yeah. There's another Phantom Thief and Strikers named Zenkichi. I think you would like him.
Okay. I need to actually finish playing through if I can get my other computer working fully again. I gotta see what disconnected.
Yeah.
Um,
And some of you might be thinking, well, what about Tactica? What about it?
well, there's always Persona 5 Dance, I think, right? Isn't that one?
I have more positive things to say about the dancing game than Tactica, but no, I don't want to be too bad on Tactica. It wasn't horrible, but it upset me in the wrong way.
Okay. Yeah, I'll co-sign. All right. So my next one,
Please.
uh, Gajeel attacks Levi in Fairy Tale.
All right.
So Gajeel is part of another guild at the start of the series called Phantom Lord, and they're rivals with Fairy Tale and not friendly rivals. Well, he and some of his cronies at the time attack Levi and her two partners that are collectively known as Team Shadow Gear for Fairy Tale.
That's a cool name.
They um, this leads to Fairy Tale busting into Shadow, um, or not Shadow, Phantom Lord's base and running and attacking them, and then all that. So it sets up kind of the whole story of this war, but it sets up Gajeel as this really dark character that has that redemption arc later down the line where he comes to accept that he doesn't have to just be cruel. That was what he was taught by the guild master of Phantom Lord, and he's given this opportunity to kind of turn around and help Fairy Tale in some ways by being um, a spy for against Raventail, his Markarov's son's guild that I've talked about before. So it's just a whole bunch of little things that sets up Gajeel in kind of this whole arc. Is it perfect? No, because I don't. The amount of attack that they do, like they seriously injure Shadow Gear, and then they kind of accept Gajeel really quickly, so it's a little iffy. But if there had been a bit more of like, we don't trust you for a longer time, I think I would have been like a really perfect moment. But just how it sets up everything for this story is good.
I will say one of the things about Fairy Tail that I do seem to like is they do emphasize other guilds, and it's like, hey, what are the differences between Phantom Lord and Fairy Tail? I do think that works, and then I do kind of vibe with the fact that it's like, huh, I like that the heroes are forgiving, but this is a little too easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, all the guilds kind of do it because I know I think it's Lamia's Scale does it with I forgot what his name is, but Gray's former um pupil when they were both students under their master, because he's a bad guy in one series, but then he joins that guild and becomes a bit of a better guy. Sabretooth had the strength above everything mentality, but becomes an allied guild with Fairy Tale and all of their partners shortly after. So I can see where they come from because they do really like that redemption of the bad guy arc throughout that series, because almost every guild has somebody who was a bad guy at one point.
Yeah, I do. If I do kind of like that though. Oh, now kind of a weird follow up question. And when the guilds that does every guild when they redeem themselves have like strictly good guys or bad guys? Is it they're like, oh well, these four people are good guys in this guild, and then the same guild has like four people with different moralities? It's a little bit of a weird question, but still.
A lot of times you only get like a few members that become that I'm trying to think like, so Phantom Lord has the element 4, which are like their highest ranked wizards. It's and it's your normal one. It's fire, wind, water, and fire.
Oh,
Or
okay.
yeah,
Never mind. Yeah, go ahead.
well, we don't. If I remember correctly, I mean, Juvia is one of them. She becomes part of Fairy Tail. Um, but the fire guy, I can't remember his name. During the time skip chain, trains Romeo, who was like the little kid at the start of the series, but he is a member of Fairy Tail. It's kind of the age of the characters when they started the series. I mean, he's still like a year or two younger, but he's now a full fledged member of the guild instead of the little kid.
Okay.
So there's so you do see like and hear about some of the characters being redeemed, but this will but like Sabretooth, you get a split. Some of the characters remain in Sabretooth and are heroes, but like the guild master and his daughter, who are kind of the ones making it all about strength, do get uh like shuttled around. They become demons and stuff. So some can be remain evil. They don't. Not everybody gets redeemed.
Okay, yeah. I can go sign on to that. Like I think that's what's slowly starting to be like I kind of want to get into Fairy Tail because the world building and the differences between the characters and guilds is fascinating.
And I love the magic system in it because there are different elements and different like it's not just everybody has elemental powers. No, there's like gun magic and weapon magic and all sorts of little different things that you could learn.
Yeah, but I could also understand you being like these attacks are actively making me angry, but I want to see what happens next.
Yeah, that can happen.
Yeah, I can go sign though.
All right. So your next one?
The Wizard King's death, Black Clover.
Okay.
All right, so when the rest of the kingdom is looking for the Eye of the Midnight Sun, n- is looking for the Eye of the Midnight Sun, and we learn that not all of the members of the Clover Kingdom aren't necessarily on the side of good. William Vengeance, the head of the Golden Dawn, and pretty much goes after Julius, the Wizard King, and they have a fight, and it's because Vengeance does have one of the spirits of the elf with him, and the elves are trying to take over. They have a really awesome fight that spans a couple of episodes. And you just get the feeling that, as some people might not be on board with it, but Julius is way stronger. Julius is way more powerful, and this should be over relatively quickly with his time magic. But but Vengeance and the elves use a spell that, in all honesty, would kill everybody in the kingdom. But Julius uses a spell of an ultimate spell of his own to save everybody, which leaves him open to an attack. And then they say, "Oh, of course, that's your weak. Your biggest strength is you're the Wizard King, but your biggest weakness is that you're the Wizard King." And he used his power, Julius' sense of wanting to protect people, and left him wide open for an attack. And Yami sees this and it infuriates him. Like we all Yami's goofy, Yami's silly, but the second he sees somebody he cares about in trouble, well, he's mortified by it, to even the point where the Wizard King's right-hand man, Marks, who he always called Mushroom Head, because well, that's what he looks like. He
Yeah.
even says, Marks, do something. And Marks is like, what? It's like, seriously, like, get him out. Oh, I'll deal with it. Like you see the anger from Yami, and you feel the anger yourself, like because he seems like he's a goofball, but he cared legitimately about everybody in the kingdom. So when you
Hmm.
see him go down and you see the betrayal happen, your blood starts to boil.
Yeah, I can co-sign into this. I mean, I know it's another moment that um, kind of, I guess, gets erased because of the time magic elements, but I know that there's other stuff that happens with him later on where he's a demon or has a demon or a devil or something.
Something like that. I'm still not 100% certain on that. But you want to know what makes things all the worse for me in particular? I was watching the dub at this time, and I got into the episode like right before maybe they started fighting, and I'm like, for a variety of reasons, and so I was like, you know what? Let me just switch the sub, and the sub has him getting stabbed, and then I'm like, okay, let me see what's next. What's ne I'm caught up. This is the worst possible time to be called up. I want to know what's happening. I was so angry. I was so angry. I couldn't talk to anybody for the next couple of hours, and my dog just looked at me like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "You knew what you were getting into." But For me in particular, the moment of the betrayal and the supposed death of Julius, like I was in a bad mood for a good bit.
Okay, so that's pretty much they um killed, and then tune in next week to find out what happens.
Exactly.
Except for we're on hiatus and we'll be back in 6 months.
It wasn't even like that. It felt like that to me, but in all honesty, it was just a case of, oh, if I wait like 6 days, then the new sub episode comes back. But for me, being like, okay, I caught up to the moment where one of my favorite characters just went through this, and seeing Yami's reaction, I'm like, I need answers. I need answers. Like, tune in next week. Black Clover, you're lucky. I love you.
I'll co-sign. Yeah, I know vaguely of what happens in certain parts of this that are coming up. So if I ever have enough free time, maybe I'll start watching anime again.
Yeah, I want to move on. This that upset me.
All right. So my next one is uh Central attacks the dorm in Food Wars.
Okay.
So this one really gives you a good chance to know just how conniving and evil Central can be. So I think it's Polar Star is the name of the dorm that's in Food Wars, but they're kind of a bastion for like the most creative. They've been through like many different ages where they had like the best students come from this dorm. Multiple of the elite 10 in the school are from here. But because Central's kind of trying to condense everything and make everybody conform to one vision where they teach you how to cook and you just cook a recipe instead of coming up with your own style of cooking, how the school has been, they're setting out to destroy all the different clubs and all that, and they target the dorms. Well, Soma goes to face Central, and pretty much during the match, it's revealed not only have they paid off the judges to pretty much not even taste Soma's food and just vote that Central was correct and that they can disband the dorms, they send a team of people just to attack the dorms straight out so that it's even if they do lose by some miracle, it's already destroyed and there's nothing that they can do at this point. So it just shows just how evil Central can be, and it makes you want them to be taken down all the more for it.
Yeah, that's always something that boils at me. Like when it's like, oh, hey, we could win fairly, but let's bribe the judges just in case. Like that, like at some point you think someone would be like, this seems a little suspicious.
Yeah, and they legit send people dressed as like soldiers, like military helmets, kind of the tan greenish uh, clothes to attack the dorms. And it's like, really? You're supposed to, and the one he's facing is supposed to be one of like the top 10 students. And he starts cooking like halfway through their time limit when Soma provokes him and he tells the judges to vote for it fairly so that he can prove he's better. And Soma wins in the end. But the other students manage to defend the dorms. It's like, it's just one of those magical moments. Like, you know how bad the Central is, and you see how much these kids want to defend their home.
Yeah. That being said, it's going to be kind of a recurring theme. It's like, even if these people try to redeem themselves, y'all are better than me if you try to do it. Because I'd say no.
Yeah. So, all right. I believe it's honorable mentions time, right?
Let's do it. Kabuto traumatizes Tsunade, Naruto.
Okay.
As much as I hate giving Kabuto credit, I have to give him credit for like the like what one of what one or like three compelling things he actually did. So when he's going up against Tsunade, when Tsunade decides not to heal Orochimaru's arms, it's a pretty decent fight. She uses the technique where he switches his ligaments, so it's like, hey, if you move your left arm, your right leg starts moving, which I still question why nobody decided to ever use it after that, because that's ridiculously overpowered,
Mm-hmm.
but Kabuto counters and like spreads blood all over Tsunade, who has a pretty bad fear of blood. Trust me, I legitimately know the feeling. And it's messing with her to the point of like she goes back, remembers losing her fiance, losing her little brother, and their blood being on her hands, and just how much it messes with her. it's to the point where like she's downright scared of Kabuto. First time for everything, I know, and it makes you all the more pissed at Kabuto being like, you had to, once again, you had to fight dirty, basically, because otherwise she would have put him on the t-shirt. He would have been gone.
Yeah. Is the other moment when he comes out with those really cool ninja cards that gives everybody stats in the tuning exams?
I well, yeah, that kind of that.
Sorry, that was bugging me because I really like that moment. That's like the only moment I really like.
Yeah, but it's in the sense of it's like, look, Tsunade hasn't been shown to be the best person, but seeing her go through what she was going through and like screaming at out also just made all the cooler when Naruto and Jiraiya were like, "Hey, we'll help you out. You put a poison in Jiraiya, so that makes things a little more difficult." But they were still willing to help. But in that moment, that was one of the moments where I'm like, "Okay, Kabuto, you did something actually compelling that pissed me off. Well done." It's probably going to be the first, last, and only time, but I'll still give you credit for one.
Yeah, and it leads to not my favorite, but I do enjoy the Naruto versus Kabuto fight, and that follows this with the him using his medical knowledge to be able to defend from Naruto's newly acquired Rasengan.
Yeah.
So
And of course, Naruto finally hitting the Rasengan on Kabuto, and I'm like, huh. Kabuto got beat. Kabuto got smacked around by Dosu, by Naruto, by Itachi and Sasuke at one point. God, it's not looking good for you, dude.
yeah, so but it's still an enjoyable fight up until this moment, and the fact that he uses stuff like to that pretty much destroys Naruto's organs at this point.
Yeah. Well, once again, I was still standing on the fact of disabling people's limbs and making their nervous system different. More people should probably be using that.
Yeah, it so there's an anime on Crunchyroll, and I never finished it, but it's the wrong way to use healing magic. I feel like there needs to be like a spin-off of like somebody. It's just the wrong way to use healing ninjutsu, and it's just it takes place in this in the Naruto universe, but it's somebody who doesn't know actually how to heal people, but they use all the same techniques to kill somebody.
Honestly, I'd watch it.
I think it would be absolutely hilarious. It's like, what's your noted position? I'm medical knit. All right, can you heal them? No, but I can kill them.
It's just like, man, why do I keep coming back to this doctor? I swear, if the lines weren't so short and there wasn't free Wi-Fi, I wouldn't keep coming back. But
I'd want them to be an Ombu person with, but their mask is like a medicine guy mask.
like the crow mask sort of thing.
Yes,
So it's just Chuck Montana. Wonderful.
yes, perfect.
Not all of you are going to get that reference. I don't need you to. But it is a case of me being like, I'm pissed at Kabuto and I guess Orochimaru at that point. Hey, hopefully they don't redeem themselves or at some point. Next one.
Okay, so my next one is the humans attacked the monster nation in that time I got reincarnated as a slime.
Okay.
So up until this point, Rimuru and his kind of, I guess, team of misfit monsters and all that he's managed to put together have built the kind of start of a nation. They've tried to set up friendly relations with their neighbors and just kind of trying to live and be that the same kind of civilizedness. Well, the leading religion, I can't remember what it's called, uh, uses their control over multiple nations through the religion to attack the monster nation, and this results in several characters getting killed just outright because they use a barrier that because monsters have a connection to I forgot what it's called, but it's the magic. It weakens them severely, while the humans can still use their full abilities. So they attack and kill like Gapta, I think, is one who dies. Maybe I can't remember. It's been or no, Gapta survives. It's multiple named characters are killed in this moment. They come back after Rimuru becomes the demon lord, but before that, you feel his rage. He puts on a magic suppressing mask and it breaks because he's so pissed that he can't control his magic. So, and again, these are named characters. These are people that we've got to know over the first two seasons at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely understand that, especially if it's a case because it seems to be in this case it's a case of humans versus monsters in a sense, but not all the monsters are monsters. Not all of them are bad people. Oh, just like not all humans are good and bad people. So for them to turn, just it makes it so like if somebody experienced prejudice and then that moment happened, I could understand why they'd be like, I don't want to trust anybody anymore.
Yeah, and it's another moment because in this series we've seen a couple characters die already. So you know at this point there is a chance that these characters are not coming back. There's hope that they will be able to, but there's not that guarantee. So it's like until you watch a few more episodes down the line and they do come back, there's still that moment of one or two of these characters may not be alive in the end. They may be like the one that has to sacrifice their like somebody else come back instead of them because the magic's not strong enough or something.
Yeah, I can definitely understand though, in the sense of when I start the show, I'm glad these episodes are out because if I had to sit and wait several weeks to be like, what's gonna happen next, I would probably crash out.
Yeah, yeah. I it was a bit of a wait because I was watching a lot like as the episodes came out.
Oh goodness.
All right. So your next one?
Zofis brainwashes Koko, Zatchbell.
Okay.
So after seeing everything Sherry went through, with her mother being horrible to her and the rest of her family just shunning her, and wanting to the point where she was going to take her own life, it was nice to see that she made friends with Koko, who did nothing but shower her with love and teach her to about having a self-esteem. Oh, and when it turns out that that one of the Momoto Zoffish has brainwashed Koko to the point where the whole town they're living in has been destroyed. But Sherry sees the look and sees that's not Koko. That's somebody who's been brainwashed by this evil, horrible Momoto Zofis. And you just get the feeling of holy crap, this is what Sherry's had gone through. This is why she's so cold and kind of scary at times. She's not heartless, but just with everything she's been through, you can't blame her for being the person she is. And it makes you hate Zofis that much more, who, in my opinion, in terms of anime villains, is actually really underrated just for how despicable he is.
I can co-sign, yeah, because you feel that I'm trying to think of how to put it. To have somebody who was such a positive impact on somebody else turn into kind of their own monster because of somebody else's control, it's it leads to a lot. Because again, you also see Sherry's hate of Momoto. She doesn't like that she has to uh, use one to fight this battle. She would much rather do it just herself, but
Yeah.
she doesn't get that choice.
Yeah. Once again, it's a case of I feel so sorry and I would give Sherry a hug, but knowing Sherry, she would beat me up for doing so. I know some people are into that. I am not.
But I'll co-sign. This is definitely one of those moments that hits hard, especially for it's so weird. Zatchbell's such a you would think it would be a lot more comedic and have a lot fewer of those more emotional moments, but it has a lot of those emotional moments because of the big goodbyes and all of that some of the characters go through.
Yeah. And it does lead to one of the best moments at the end of the Ancient Momoto arc where it's like, hey, you're gonna turn Coco back to the person she was. And Zophis is like, why? If you burn my book, I don't have to listen to you. To the point where Brago decides to get scary and be like, oh, well, if we don't burn your book, you stay here. And I can basically make your life a living hell until you decide to do it. And Zophis is like, oh, all right, I'll change Coco back. Zophis changes Coco back to normal, and then they burn the book. And I'm like, I'm not all right, dibs on not messing with Brago because in that moment I was like, please, do it, but at the same time, like somebody get me away from him.
Yeah, that was one of like the I'm trying to think. Yeah, that's one of the reasons that he ends up as like number two or three in the final
Yeah, he was number
like
two if
collide.
I recall.
Yeah, so he lasts like long enough to become like stand a chance of being wizard or not wizard king,
I mean,
Momoto king.
there are magic and spells, and they do have books like Black Clover, so it's not the craziest thing to assume.
Wizard Demon King.
Yeah, But seriously, just the moment of Zofis brainwashing Koko and turning her into a monster, you get pissed once again for the right reason because you're like, no, take him down, take him down. It leads to a pretty heartwarming moment too towards the end, but I'll talk about that point another day.
Yeah. All right. So my next one, I put Siegfried Kircheis's death in The Legend of Galactic Heroes. Uh, this is a moment because Kircheis is like the heart of the Empire. He's the one who sees that the Empire can be better, kind of pushes Reinhardt down that path of let's build the world better together. I may be a commoner, but you've treated me with kindness and I care for you and all that. And his death kind of triggers Reinhardt's spiral into becoming an evil dictator, pretty much, of the empire by making himself regent. Since the emperor shortly after this becomes an infant, pretty much. So so it's you can really see that this is the loss of kind of innocence in the series. Well, it's a series about war between a republic and an empire that neither are perfect and both have its flaws, but also have the good inside of. Uh, that's yeah. It's just one of those moments that I really feel angry because it's where the empire pretty much loses itself completely.
Yeah, it makes it all the worse because you do think to yourself, there's war going on, but at the same time, there has to be some level of humanity to it, even though it's like they say in Gintama, nobody really wins during a war. Like no, there are no winners, no matter what side you're on.
Yeah, it. I mean, Kircheis is assassinated. It's not even like if I remember correctly, they put down a rebellion in the empire because they're already kind of taking control and they're kind of working and removing the nobility that have been corrupt, who have been the evil ones. And then they, um, Kircheis gets killed, and Reinhardt just kind of it pushes him over the edge where now his policies he wants to make everybody equal, but he also wants to make sure no one else gets hurt, so he kind of takes control of everything.
Yeah, and I'm assuming him taking control doesn't always lead to the best results.
Yeah, because his view is that he can make the best choices for everybody, so he is now doing that.
I feel like that type of character never gets what they want in the end, but maybe he hasn't seen other anime, so I guess I can't be too hard on the guy.
Yeah. Well, this one, I mean, if you go back to the original, I think it's still the same story, and they're uh so it's from like the 70s. So it's one of the first ones that probably did this story in the anime industry.
Yeah, I can definitely co-sign because once again it's a case of in some cases I'm like, well, you're losing people and you're trying to win a war, so I understand. At the same time, like there aren't a lot of wars where I'm like, I'm happy with what this person did, so I can understand why it's on your list.
Yeah. All right. Your next one?
All right, my last honorable mention, the death of Miri's mother from Buddy Daddies.
Okay.
All right, so after Kasuki and Rei have had to say goodbye to Miri because of their jobs, so you think everything's okay. Miri's with her mom, even though she's currently dying from a cancer. You think everything, well, not okay, because Rei and Kazuki are heartbroken. And at the same time, Ogino realizes that's not enough. He needs to make sure that they don't have access to Miri, so he's sent to take care of Miri. But instead of that, she Miri's already asleep, and her mother opens the door at 7 o'clock at night, thinking, "Oh, that's not a good idea," and he kills her. Look, Miri's mom was not a good person. She abandoned Miri. She thought, "Oh, well, she's somebody who ruined my life." At the same time, though, whether she was serious about redeeming herself or not, she didn't deserve to go through that. Especially when you realize that her doing what she did bought Miri some extra time when Kazuki showed up and tried fighting off Ogino. Oh, and with everything they went through since the episode where they gave her up was heartbreaking to go from really sad about that to super pissed about what Ogino did. Like it gets to you.
Yeah, this moment really does because you see, especially because you see a mother who is trying to do right by her kid. She's trying to make uh herself better for uh everybody, but it comes crashing down at in a matter of moments.
Yeah. It also makes the middleman who they always get missions from, Kiyotaro, kind of be like, hey, I didn't know this was going to happen. I just thought they were going to separate. I'm like, no, buddy, you work for Assassins. What the hell did you think was going to happen? He does redeem himself in the next episode, though. So, but it's a rage that's like, we got one more episode. You have one episode to fix this, and then they fix it, and I'm like, oh, they fixed it. Okay.
Yeah, it is a nice little moment in the next one when, especially the very end, which we've talked about on this channel before,
We've
haven't we?
talked about it a couple of times, but I don't think we've fully talked about it. Even in my review, I was like, I'm gonna leave it's the show came out like a month ago, finished a month ago. I'm not gonna spoil it.
Yeah, but it is one of my favorite endings in the series, and it makes me feel like I don't need a sequel series to it.
Yeah, the one thing that makes me bad about saying that is apparently the actors were like, I actually really like this. I'd like another scene. I'm like, if the actors want it and they can craft something good, I'll take it.
Mhm.
But if it's just over and it's done, I'm completely happy with it. But to me, that just says the people working on the show enjoyed it, and that's always awesome to hear.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to be something about them, like either like if it takes place right after the main part of the story ends, so she's still the little girl. It could be that they have to wrap up some stuff, but I could also see it taking place after the little time skip at the very end.
Yeah. But like I said, in that moment, you're like, because I thought to myself, oh, Ray's dad is going to be the bad guy, even though at the very end, he did show one good moment where he's like, I'm not going to kill my own son because that's messed up. And I've talked about before why I think that could be the reason. But also, it directs all your anger towards Ogino because there is nothing redeemable about the guy in the slightest. And as much as you love the ending where it's like, oh, everything worked out and it's so happy and wholesome, part of me is like, he's dead. They got rid of him. Good.
Is he the father or the one that wants to know everybody's last words?
The one who wants to know everybody's last words.
Okay, I couldn't remember the names, but I'm like I remember the characters and the
I want to talk about his death more, but maybe on another episode.
yeah. Ooh, that could be an interesting one. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, yeah.
So I 100% co-sign though. This moment does. I mean, I was a bit more angry with her trying to uh, take her out of their lives, but it's just
I was
not.
more sad than angry about that. So I'm like, that's kind of conflicting. But this is like, there's very little sadness. There's anger. Hold up, hey Ogino, wait right there. I'm gonna get my belt.
It's the big one. It's like the WWE Championship belt,
Yes, yes. So, like, well, like I'll get my belt. Richard, get your gut. Let's go. Let's go.
and Alex uses the buckle.
Yes. But
Uh,
let's go. I can co. What you can co-sign. We both got pissed. What's your last honorable mention?
my last honorable mention is when Nami stabs herself in One Piece.
Yeah.
It is one of those heartbreaking moments in One Piece that One Piece does pretty well when they show it. Is um, Arlong betrays her, steals the fortune that she's just reaching the point where she's going to have enough money to buy back her village, like he said she could. Um, he steals the treasure from her, then makes fun of her, saying, "Oh, there's you never be would have been able to buy back your village. This was just a ploy to get you to get us more money." So she starts takes a knife and just starts stabbing the tattoo that marked her as part of Arlong's crew, and she's breaking down, and you feel that she watched her adoptive mother sacrifice herself, went out of her way to uh, try to save the village in a way that nobody else understood, so they thought she was a traitor. It's all the suffering she went through culminates in even more, pretty much at this point.
Yeah, especially when it's like you said you were gonna let the village go, and he's like, when did I say that? And it's part of the point where it's like, you motherfucker, you weren't even gonna, like, it makes it that much angry that she got so close, and he's like, I don't recall ever saying that. Like, no, it makes you all the angrier at him, and especially kind of the heartbreak of realizing if she had just said to the Straw Hat Pirates like, "Hey, I need your help with something," they probably would have been like, "Yeah, let's do it. We have Sanji on our side now." But just also the sadness of realizing that she kind of screwed them over in some cases, but they're still like, "All right, let's go help Nami."
Mhm. And it leads to one of the first of those epic moments where you get the uh almost One Piece like theme. It's not the opening theme, but it's the walk to Arlong Park where it's, I mean, Sanji, Zoro, Luffy, and Usopp just all in a line, and they're doing that slow walk because they just walk there, and it's like they could have an army there. Those four, even like pre-hockey, they're gonna kick some ass.
Yeah, it also makes it all the more hilarious when people insert that clone from the Jimmy Neutron episode, Cool Jimmy, walking alongside them. But I understand why he wasn't part of it because that arc would have been like 12 seconds.
Yeah, he would have won it in an instant.
Yeah, yeah, he would have told Arlong's crew that yes, that's what you get when you can't handle the Neutron style. But in all seriousness, it does make you hate Arlong that much more. That you're like like look, obviously not every villain's gonna have a code of honor. At the same time, though, when she gets so close for him to be like screw you, you're like, all right, hold up, no, let's do it, let's do it, let's go, put him up. I understand why even with my going back at One Piece, I'm just like, huh, this makes me just as mad at now as it did back then.
Yeah, and it's one of those moments that it redeems Nami from being somebody who's betrayed the Straw Hats to somebody who was doing what they thought was right.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'm going back and looking at One Piece for a video we're doing. I can't I'm never going to be able to catch up, but I do like going back from the start.
I mean, you can get the gist in most of the stories because a lot of times they have very similar overarching results.
Yeah, but I can co-sign though.
All right, so your final entry.
All right. This is going to be a little bit of a weird one, but I still want you to hear me out for it.
Okay,
The Brawlers fight over what to do next. Bakugan Battle Brawlers.
okay.
All right, so I've mentioned before, very early on in this channel's inception, that I don't like when friends are fighting with each other in big moments, like the third act breakup, as a lot of people like to call it.
Hmm.
But when they're searching for clues about Masquerade and Klaus, one of the Marucho goes up against Klaus, Preus gets sent to the Doom Dimension, and
Hmm.
it breaks Marucho. Oh, and while they're trying to figure out, well, what's our next course of action, Maruso is heartbroken. He shuts himself off. He doesn't have it in him to figure out, well, if we do like he doesn't have him in him to plan and figure out the next steps. And Bruno is on Marucho's side. She's like, "Hey, we're here for you. We got it. We understand." Meanwhile, Dan is like, "Look, I feel bad for Marucho. I do, but we still have a job to do." And on that same path. So it causes a lot of tension between the brawlers, but it's in a way that makes sense. Dan and Julie aren't being the most sensitive, but if they sit around and do nothing, more Bakugan are going to be lost. Their worlds could be destroyed. They're trying to be proactive. At the same time, Runo and Marucho, look, I understand. You support your friends when you need to, but we also have a mission that could potentially cost lives. I under You get mad at the brawlers, but I wouldn't necessarily say one group is in the right and one group is in the wrong. It's just a sense of they're kids. They don't know how to fully play off each other because they barely know each other in some aspects, but I can't bring myself to legitimately hate them. It's like, wow, this fight actually makes a whole lot of sense as opposed to one person's being a jerk, the other person apologizes in the end.
Yeah, I can co-sign onto this because I can agree that neither side feels like they are wrong. They have You've got the side that you want to support because they're being a good friend, but you also have the side that knows that they have time to mourn later. Let's deal with the situation we have to right this minute.
Yeah. And I especially love I especially love Shun's role in all this because he's kind of the peacemaker without fully getting involved. He's like, well, just think about it. Remember when Dan lost Drago when he threw him in the river? Sure, those are completely different circumstances, but Dan knows better than anybody what it's like to lose your partner Bakugan. And sometimes you have to keep pushing forward with what you're doing. But he doesn't say it in an insensitive, jerkish way. He just says it in a way like he knows Dan better than anybody, which makes, in my opinion, their friendship is the best part of the whole series. But I don't know, everybody feels right and wrong in character, but nobody feels irredeemable in character. And I think for me, as much as I hate third act breakups and friends big fighting between each other, once again, it makes sense and and with the way they resolve it, it makes me go, "Wow, that was that was awesome."
Mhm. Yeah, I yeah, it's nice because they come back together. I mean, not because it's like 2 or 3 episodes between in kind of this thing, so it's for especially what would be more of a kids anime. That's a long time because usually they do like, okay, this happens, the next episode they're fighting until like the very end, and then it's like they somebody apologizes, but they spread it out, if I remember correctly, a little bit more. There's not it takes a couple episodes to get fully back together.
Yeah. But for showing us that you could that everybody had a reason for being the way they're being, and also showing that Shun just understands the gang better than people think he does. It's in a moment where I'm like, I'm angry at you all for fighting, and then as I got older, I realized, oh my God, this fight makes perfect sense. I love this.
Yeah, I'll co-sign it. It does really. This is one of the better fights in like among friends, especially.
Exactly.
All right. So my final one. So Goku lets Vegeta live in DBZ.
Oh
So
boy.
this is on my first watch of uh the series. Um Nowadays, because I know what Vegeta has become and where he sits in the series, I it doesn't make me as angry as it used to. But as somebody who had watched Dragon Ball and knew that some of these characters had been cruel but have turned, I didn't view Vegeta as redeemable at this point. I didn't know when I was first watching what Vegeta would become, but I mean, we've watched Yamcha, Tien, Chaozu, and Piccolo all get killed in like the last few episodes by the Cybermen, then Nappa, and then finally Vegeta. That I understand where Krillin is coming from. He is ready to use that sword and kill Vegeta and end any threat to Earth in that moment. And it and I don't necessarily disagree with him in that original moment. It's like he's at this point you've lost the Dragon Balls because Piccolo died, which means Kami's gone. So you haven't even thought about that. Maybe there's somewhere out there that you can go. It's just there's enough anger there that it's like, especially on your first watch. And again, this is before Vegeta became the excellent character necessarily that he would become. This
Yeah.
is
Go on,
go
keep
ahead.
going.
I was just gonna
Keep
say
going.
this is pure villain Vegeta.
Yeah, I do agree in the sense of it is kind of one of those things where it's like, are you sure letting him go is the right thing? But I do like how, as angry as you can get, I do like how it's a case of Goku being like, well, if he comes back, we'll just keep stopping him, which knowing Goku, he would be able to do. The one thing that does kind of take it away from me is was like as bad of a guy as Vegeta is, you start to realize, huh? Now that I think about it, Vegeta hasn't killed anybody besides the people on that bug planet. So it's just kind of like, well, the Cybermen killed Yamcha, Nappa killed everybody else, so Vegeta's a threat. But at the same time, part of me is kind of like, huh? By comparison to what Nappa did, he didn't accomplish as much as a villain.
Yeah, but it was one of those things that because of how it was implied that he's stronger than Nappa, he's letting Nappa handle the dirty work, and if there's something Nappa can't handle, he steps in. But
Very, very true. But at the same, but it's also makes sense because now we know the type of person Goku is. Goku doesn't kill unless it's like absolutely like I have to do this, like he did with Boo, and then Boo came back in Oob. So I don't think that one technically counts.
yeah, and I know that as I said, all pretty much everybody who died at some point. Actually, no, everybody who did die was a villain in the series at some point. Yamcha was the Desert Bandit. Chaozu and Tien were part of the Crane School, and they're in bad guys in their relative arcs. And then Piccolo is Kid Piccolo, so he's the son and bad guy from the final arc in the original Dragon Ball. So yes, all of them have been redeemed and become friends and allies, but none of them were like necessarily the bad guy, like to the same extent that Vegeta and Nappa were. Vegeta, because Nappa just went off and started killing some random people.
Yeah, he killed some people the second they landed too.
Yeah, so it's just that combination. It's like I don't know how to put it. It's in my first watch, I was like, Goku, really? You're letting him go to uh at this point. I know that's in your character, but he killed people, and you don't at this point you haven't even thought of the fact that you could go somewhere else to save uh or to bring him back. You're
Yeah.
at this point they are dead.
Yeah, at the same time though, I like it's look, I understand, look, it's a running gag on this channel and I will still I'll still continue it. It's a case for me where I'm like, so let me see if I get this straight. You're upset, Krillin, you're upset you couldn't kill Vegeta, but when it comes to Android 18, and you're just like, oh no, the remote. Whoops. Is it because Vegeta didn't kiss you on the cheek? Would that have changed things?
That'd be an interesting relationship.
I don't want to see that, man. But yeah, I can co-sign. It is a case where I'm like, where I'm like Goku, you better be right. This better be the right call. And several years later, it was the right call.
Yeah, and the only reason that they won that fight at that point is because Vegeta underestimated them. He was still at that point stronger than Goku. So it's one of those moments that if Vegeta had just not been expecting a little bit more, that fight turns a lot different. Goku ends up dead, and Vegeta destroys planet Earth and goes off to find the Dragon Balls on Namek instead.
And then gets killed by Frieza.
Yeah, so the end of the series is now Frieza Force rules the galaxy.
Yeah, so maybe Goku had that. Maybe Goku saw that was the original script, and Goku went and Goku politicked back. Goku politicked like Hulk Hogan backstage. The only difference is this actually worked out for the better.
Yeah. But yeah,
I can go sign. I love Goku, but in that moment, I was kind of like, you son of a bitch, what are you? You better be right about this.
Was he? Absolutely, but
even the sun shines on a dog's ass every now and then, I guess.
Yeah. So, all right, we ready to wrap up?
Let's do it. So, everybody, what are some moments in anime that pissed you off, but for the right reasons? Seriously, keep in mind, these are moments where it's like, I'm angry, but I'm still invested. I want to see what happens next. Not I'm angry and I don't want to watch anymore, or I'm angry this ruins the episode for me. Just keep that in mind. Well, maybe another day.
Exactly. And do you agree or disagree with our list? Are any of these moments that didn't make you angry, or are they a moment that made you angry for the wrong reason? Did it take you out of that episode?
Exactly. But please, just be sure to let us know. Give us some ideas for what you want next. We'll maybe listen. I don't know. My attention span's not as great as it used to be.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. I'm going through the same thing.
All right, but be sure to just let us know. Like, comment, subscribe. Be good to each other. We'll see you next time. This has been Alex.
And Richard.
And you have been listening to Anime Egotists. Good night, and peace easy.